What is that strange looking relic that's been sitting in somebody's garden for over 3 decades? And why am I walking on this stretch of road that's leading up to Denholm in Bradford? Just round here we're overlooking an old bridge. All these questions will be answered in the video later on. Now I'm Riaz from Bradford Through the Lens, and welcome to a new episode. Some would say we bring the good, bad and the ugly of Bradford in our own unique way. Today's video is about the rise and demise of a former hotel and a theatre that was attached to it. The former building was located at the bottom of Great Horton Road in Bradford towards the city centre. The likes of Charlie Chaplin, Buddy Holly and Rolling Stones were some of the former famous guests of the hotel. The theatre is one of Bradford's major long-lost music halls. Over to you, Mark.
Today we'd like to remember with fondness and affection a wonderful building in Bradford which is no longer here. And behind me you can see one of the more newer buildings for Bradford College. But on that site once stood the Alexandra Hotel, which was opened in December 1878. And it stood on that site for over 100 years before its demolition in 1993. So what we're going to do in this video is take you through a potted history of the Alexandra Hotel and also the Empire Theatre and Cinema, which was adjoined to the rear of the hotel building. The Alexandra Hotel officially opened on Saturday the 14th of December in 1878. And it was said that it was a large and a commodious building for the use of families and commercial gentlemen. And within its walls there was to be a large central hall, a dining room, 140 bedrooms with bathrooms and offices also included. And there was to be an extensive range of first-class stables and coach house facilities with a covered yard. It was to be elegantly furnished and provided with every requisite for the comfort and convenience of visitors. There was a theatre attached to the back of the hotel, positioned on what was the gardens of the hotel. And the theatre was known as the Empire, and it opened in 1899. And quite a lot of well-known names appeared on its stage. Charlie Chaplin, Stan Laurel, W.C. Fields and also George Formby. But its days as a theatre came to a sudden end in 1917 when a fire broke out. But the following year, after all the fire damage and debris had been moved, a cinema opened in the auditorium. The theatre aspect of the building actually had a number of names through its years of use. It was first known as the Empire Music Hall, and then the Empire Theatre and Opera House. After the fire, it reopened as the Empire Cinema. The cinema contained 1,381 seats in a typical old variety theatre style. The auditorium was 70 feet long by 55 feet. In 1923, it changed its name to the Empire Super Cinema. In 1937, it became known as the New Empire, and it did revert back to its name of the New Empire Super Cinema up until 1952, when fire damage completely ended its life. In 1954, a couple of years after the fire, the cinema section was completely closed off from the rest of the hotel, and the hotel entrance area, which had previously served as the cinema foyer entrance, that was redeveloped into a restaurant and also a trendy cocktail bar. And that bar went by a few names which people seem to remember. There was the Tudor Lounge. In the 60s it was known as the Moonlight Bar. It was also known as Chaplin's Bar for a while, a little reference there to Charlie Chaplin. And a lot of people also seem to remember it simply as the Vaults Bar. And that remained the case up until the early 1970s when hotel operations ceased and the building was purchased by Bradford Council for use as an annex for Bradford College. In the 1980s, the Empire Theatre cinema part of the building was completely demolished, and then in the late 1980s it was decided that the building was structurally unsound and it couldn't be used by Bradford College anymore, and a question mark hung over the future of the Alexandra Hotel. After Bradford College had vacated the building, it was no longer in use, and for a number of years it fell into a further state of disrepair. It became a little bit of a target for vandals and thieves. And it was in June 1993 when an announcement was made that the old hotel building was to be pulled down for the site to be used as a city centre car park. In July, a property developer came forward. He offered to buy the hotel and he wanted to turn it into student accommodation, but his offer was rejected by the council. They said it was too low. And then the inevitable happened. A few months later, the hotel was indeed demolished, and during those demolition works, it was discovered that the fabric of the building was indeed beyond repair. Once the hotel building had been demolished, the site sadly became a car park. But there was one trace of the Alexandra Hotel which remained in situ for a lot of years, and it was behind me where you would have seen some of the railings which had adorned the wall in front of the entrance. They stayed in place till about 2014 when this section of Bradford College was built on the car park. But what about the rest of the building? What happened to it? Well, we actually do know where most of the building ended up, and we're going to take you there now. A few miles out of the city centre, up Thornton Road, the disused Wellhead railway cutting had a tunnel which was no longer in use. Thornton Road ran above it, and it had weakened over the years. So it was decided that the bricks and mortar from the hotel would be given a final resting place underneath that old bridge to basically support it and hold it up. So if you were to travel through Thornton in the direction of Denholm, here on Thornton Road, you'd go past the cemetery and you would come to this old bridge. And if you look down there, you can see the old railway embankment, and it's underneath this bridge where impacted debris from the old Alexandra Hotel currently sits, propping up Thornton Road. The next sequence in this video was shot on a different day, and we ended up in Bingley and found a very unusual discovery in somebody's garden. As a postscript, we've actually left Thornton and we've come across Bradford to the Bingley area, to the garden of 𝗕𝗥𝗏𝗧.
Yes.
Hello there.
Hello.
Thanks
Good
for
to see
inviting
you.
us along. I understand that you've got something you'd like to show us.
Yeah, and there it is. That is one of the original stone heads from the Empire Theatre, which I managed to acquire as they were tearing down the Empire Theatre.
Wow.
So I managed to get that, and I managed to get the plaque on the building that said this used to be the Empire Theatre.
Right, well, we'll have a look at that in a second. Could that have been skipped then? What was happening with it?
Well, they were lined up on the front of the building.
Yeah.
So I don't know whether somebody was coming along to collect them or whether they were going to be skipped, because there were certainly plenty of skips there.
Yeah.
I don't think much of the building was saved at all. So myself and the stage manager went across and rather cheekily said, can we have a stone head? And initially they said, yeah, it'll be 50 quid. And we went, come on, I'm a collector, I'm not doing this for money. And then they said, yeah, okay, then take one. And it weighs a ton.
Yeah.
So Colin, who's a much bigger chap than I am, he took it back over to the get-in area at the Alhambra. And then they said, you might as well have this plaque as well. So I've got that in my greenhouse.
Wow. Because we've been to Thornton and most of the building ended up there beneath Thornton Road to strengthen a former railway tunnel, yeah. That's where most of the debris was, and you know, I've wondered for a long time whether or not that was just the standard masonry or whether or not that also included ornate stonework.
Because
like
there were quite a few of these, so I don't know how many more still exist, if any do at all, but it would be interesting to find out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hopefully when this is shown, somebody might look at it and say, oh, I've got one of those.
Oh, that'd be good.
And they can get in touch, or they might have other bits of memorabilia from that particular building.
Yeah. I mean, for the viewers that watch our channel, to them, this will just be another example of us stumbling across another example of long lost glorious Bradford.
Yep.
It turns up in the most remarkable of places.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing about Bradford, is it was once a really glorious place with some glorious buildings.
Yeah.
And sadly, a lot of them have gone. I mean, thankfully the Alhambra was saved, because that was going to be demolished, and where the 𝗕𝗥𝗄𝗏 is now, the museum, that was going to be the new theatre. So thankfully it was saved. And,
Yeah. No, and thankfully you had the frame of mind to ask for a piece of the old Alexandra Hotel 𝗕𝗥𝗏𝗧 to be saved. There it is.
I know.
Right, let's have a look at this
Okay.
plaque. Oh wow,
And
look at that.
here it is. I'll move into a place where we've got some good light.
So I've turned that way. Wow.
So I was very, very lucky to be given this. I haven't tried to restore it at all, so that's exactly as it came off the building. I just hope that Bradford City Heritage don't want it back if they see this.
No, it's in the safest possible hands.
Yeah, because I've even got
in
in my kitchen, it was a sort of a brass plaque, and it says "License in the pursuance of dancing and singing."
Yeah.
But I think this is it's quite a nice piece.
Yeah, historically, everything you need to know
In
is.
fact, one
is
day
on
this
here.
will go back to Bradford.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I've got a provision that things that I've got that are historically Bradford will go back to organisations in Bradford.
Right. So this was obviously fixed to the building via these corner points.
Yep.
These were put on buildings all over Bradford in the 80s or thereabouts, I believe. The former Odeon had two. One about the brewery and one about the new Victoria. Again, well done you for...
oh, my pleasure.
Yeah.
You know, if I've done a little bit to save a part of old Bradford, then, you know, good.
So the Alexandra Hotel is sort of still functioning. Part of a garden here in Bingley, and it's propping up Thornton Road elsewhere in the city.